Let's move on to chapter 8. Guns as symbols, I believe that's what it's called. Yes. And it's really important to read the part at the very beginning. It says Anthony Sampson, in his book The Arms Bazaar From Lebanon to Lockheed, informs us that the word weapon was until the 14th century synonymous with penis. So echoing what Celia said earlier, guns representing penis just being so prominent in a white psyche, and them even to the point where them even calling their weapons it. So getting started, does anyone have any comments about chapter 8 they want to share? Anything highlighted? Questions?
Oh yeah. Whenever I read chapter 8, I always am reminded of technology and how without this technology, white people would have not been able to dominate the continents that it dominated, especially without the technology of machine guns, and also the subconscious projection of having inferior genetic materials and not really feeling confident in their genes. They created a tool to basically replace that and be as equal to that. The great equalizer is the gun. And yeah, we're gonna talk about this as we move through our discussion, but it's really relevant to me that the gun is a powerful tool in the white supremacy system and culture. And in America, you see a lot of gun patriotism. You see a lot of gun love, and you see the strong affiliations with guns and phallic symbols and genetic materials. I'm gonna pass this out.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, Trey, because that's exactly where my mind went when I read the chapter about the technology, and I wanted to read some of that on page 107, 106 through 107. It's not verbatim, it's kind of like paraphrased. The collective and individual white brain computer, recognizing the threat, eventually evolved a solution in the form of technology that would address the specific issue of white genetic and genital weakness or inadequacy. Technology always is developed to take over at the point of the human organism anatomical or physiological limitation, thus meaning that technology is created in the sense here that, or at least Dr. Cress's sense, that it's a way to aid to something that we're lacking. So it's a tool that helps us. It's a tool that can further something that we physically or because of our physical bodies or anatomy we can't do. So we create a tool to help us. And so it goes back to that European mind frame, that brain computer trying to solve a problem.
Yeah. It compensates. Technology compensates for our limits, and like if there's like a limit to how much genocide you can cause upon a race, what can we do about that? Okay, let's create this weapon that allows us to kill a lot of non-whites easily, and there comes the gun culture, there comes the gun, because we would not be oppressed without the gun.
Wait, can Rudy mute? Because I can't hear you. You're going in and out.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah, I want to ask the question: who here believes that we would still be oppressed without guns and nuclear bombs?
Adding nuclear bombs to that sentence really made a difference. I think if we still be depressed without nuclear bombs, I feel like a lot of different countries would react more, because the fear of, I don't know, Donald Trump having say so over whether or not nuclear missiles can be launched is like maybe he doesn't have that much power, but just that thinking puts a lot of fear into me that yeah. And let's look at Hiroshima. Look at there's a statement that's said in this book. I'm not sure what chapter. I think Trey had mentioned this before to me or during this conversation where a white male is basically felt insecure that he was having a threesome and they wasn't being paid attention to, so he got his gun out and killed one of the women, and just mental reaction to solving the problem, like that's the way he equalizes the situation of his inadequacy is, yeah. So without nuclear weapons, I feel like there'll be less of a threat because we won't have the fear that someone will have to prove their adequacy by murdering thousands on a mass basis.
So I see a lot of rhetoric around gunship as I need this for my protection. And today's society, yes, you should have a gun for protection because of white supremacy. And but I do want to read a brief segment from the book where she talks about how she doesn't agree that guns are like necessary for survival because the natives didn't have guns. They were hunting buffalo with, simplistic, sustainable weaponry, aka, bows and such, and spears. So this is on page 104. And while recognizing along with Mr. Kraft the predominant use of guns in the American frontier days, I strongly disagree that guns were needed for survival in the simple terms of continuation of life. To me, like, survival is the continuation of life. After the Native Americans taught the Europeans how to grow corn to feed themselves and survive, guns were needed, however, if Native non-white Americans were going to be removed successfully from the land that the Europeans wished to dominate and control. Who here believes that you need a gun to survive in today's society?
In today's society, yes.
Yes.
In today's society, I would think yes, we do need guns.
Yeah.
Black people especially.
Yeah, Black people especially. That just thanks for reading that passage because we highly like forget or don't know how many natives were like genocided. It would they kill at least, I'm pretty sure, over 50 million Native American people. And who here has ever heard that large amount of number? So there's a book called Settlers that just came out. It's being heavily criticized because it has a lot of relevant knowledge in there surrounding like the numbers surrounding how many natives may have been genocided. But the numbers gets that high, and that's why there's a lot of negative criticism around the book. But it is not a lot of people, and think about how big this country is. If it was populated by Native American people in all of these areas, then it's very possible that over 50 million Native people were genocided and conquering this land, taking this land. So, thoughts, comments?
I would like to chime in, if I may. On page 110, down toward the last paragraph, she's talking about the symbolism of the gun and how they feel in their psyche that, they are inferior to us being Black people, and that this gun, is an equalizer against the threat of their genetic annihilation. Now, that's in itself gives you an idea about who you're looking at in your everyday activity, going back and forth to work, on the bus, on the plane, etc.
Yeah, the mentality. Thanks for sharing that. The mentality is right here, and the quote says, God did not create all men equal, but Colonel Colt did, referring to the creator of the Colt revolver. So, and she further this, apparently white males were thinking at an unconscious level to be sure that God did not create them to be genetically equal to men of color, but their technology of compensation was the gun. So John just broke it down, and she elaborates. So we are really dealing with a like hyper self-conscious or insecure like being that is silly that culture exists on the basis of destruction and control. The sooner our fellow captive prisoner of wars realize that, the sooner we're able to bring solutions to this problem.
And some of the things that kind of stood out to me was on page 13 when she gets into talking about cockfighting and Dick Tracy and the cocked gun. So I would really like to hear your guys' opinions on how the gun is now translating into the TV shows that they watch and cockfighting and just what are your guys' thoughts on that?
To me, it was the understanding nature of the pervasiveness of projection and how a lot of the white psyche is projected into mass media culture, aka like you said, Dick Tracy, and like even when you sign your signature, like let me see your like let me get your John Hancock. All of these things are like phallic, symbolic things, I believe, and it's interesting. I'm around like a lot of white old men during my lectures, and they say some things that are completely self-revealing. For example, I had a professor. There was men and women in the group, all students. And he was leading a class, and he's not the only person who said this. Like a lot of white men have said this to our faces about how like men, they do speak like this. Men only think about the size of their dicks and sex. And when I first heard that, I was like, I don't think about that 24/7. I don't think about that. Oh, I never really think about it. And after reading these texts, I'm like, wow, this is very true. Because I have a lot of old men told me personally that all they do is think about sex. All they do is think about like their penis. Yeah, so reading that chapter is just more like like you said earlier, Celia, like a aha moment. Like, wow.
Yeah, I think the entire white psyche is like hilarious, like hilariously like tragic, demented, psychopathic. Yeah.
So I think the most intense graphic symbol of this is how 1% of the population in South Africa is able to dominate and control 99% of the Black population in South Africa. So yes, initially, the power of technology is required for that level of domination. However, after a period of domination, uh, the brainwashing, the white supremacist fear tactic kicks in, because even if you do have superior firepower, you have 99% of the population that can just bum rush you and take your guns like the Mau Mau did in Kenya in 1962. You know, the experts in guerrilla, the real warriors, the real Rasta warriors, the Mau Maus. They hid Kajomo Kenyatta, who I'm named for, my middle name, hid in the bush. When the redcoats came through the bush, they would come out of the bush and take their guns and kill them, and they were able to overthrow the British government that way. And Kenya had an apartheid system. So for them to have been able to, and even to this day in Kenya, you still have this love and this aspiration for the Africans, way more so over there than over here to be white, to aspire to white culture, to aspire to white culture. And so it's more than just guns. You use the guns initially to oppress, and then you take all of your other tactics, your dehumanization, your uh, 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 restricting of education, oppression of education, oppression of skills, uh, and total disregard for the rhythm and the balance of nature. And it's like the total dichotomy between Eastern thought, African thought, which is in harmony with nature, and the Western thought, which is to dominate and control nature, which can never, it can never happen. And as you can see, that's going on right now with all of the calamities that are going on in the world. Nature is speaking to us in the words of DJ Quick. I'm through playing with your punk ass.
Yeah, let's hope the masses like heed the call and begin to stop the genocide. It's
I
very
say,
important. Yeah, very important to understand that the white European mindset like has separated himself from the universe. They don't see themselves as in harmony with the universe, nor being in this on this planet to participate in harmony with the universe. Whereas the African mindset, perspective, worldview was one of twinness, harmony with the universe, complementary. There's a balance to everything, and we're supposed to be in harmony with the universe and take care of nature and whatnot. So this is why our planet is being destroyed. This planet that was originally given to the Africans to take care of, to be the planet custodials, to say differently.
Well said, Scott.
Yeah, and to hammer in what Swat said, I posted something in the WhatsApp, a 2-minute video. Did anyone watch that 2-minute video?
When you posted it recently?
Yesterday. Well, for me it was last night. For you guys, it was I don't know what time. And I put in the message that it's 2 minutes. But yeah, it's really.
Was it the
2 minutes.
video with the guy, with the black guy, and it's like it looked like an infomercial kind of?
No, I put that in there just as like, hey, this is also interesting.
Oh, okay.
But I put more attention of you guys watching the 2-minute one. Because it really
watch it now?
Yeah, you guys.
Was it the pastor that was talking about?
No, it was.
I think it's critically important that we really, really focus on not so much that these people have created, we have to focus on these people have created a system of white supremacy, but that was only possible because of the stolen legacy. That's like at the underbelly, that's the core foundation of white supremacy, the fact that they first had to steal the identity of the original people and steal all of the culture, all of the credit, all of the knowledge and information that they got from them and claim it for their own. Stolen Legacy, that's a book. It's not Chancellor Williams. I think it's I gotta look.
J.H.G. James, I believe.
Yes,
something like that.
That's him. That's the one. Yes.
I thought the video was very interesting. I particularly wanted to just see that. I see a lot of Black people not listening to other Black people when they say, "Hey, you have a role and a purpose," and I see a lot of Black people willing to listen to non-Black people a lot more. So I just decided, hey, I'm going to share this with everybody that I can because it's interesting and it's somewhat constructive because there is things that people can do, like get going, researching who you are, like understanding that you've been oppressed for generations upon generations upon generations, and that even people in other countries know you're oppressed and know that you believe that you're a slave. Yeah, just constructive information.
I
I
totally
totally
think
think
that's
that's
a
a
great
great
point.
point.
I
I
feel
feel
like
like
that
that
statement about people in these countries outside of the Western dominated culture actually know who we are, and know who needs to be aware of their own knowledge. And I feel like that video in particular ties into me to the theory of Black people being the true chosen people and real Israelites, and all the different 12 tribes, if they come together, then we'll be fulfilling the legacy of basically reclaiming back our land and knowledge and economy and unity. That's what that lady had said in the video reminds me of, and makes me want to do more research into the real Israelites.
Oh, man, yeah, I think that's like just a whole huge example of how the people area activity of religion is just like has been just totally like eroded and used to destroy and divide and like brainwash our people. You know, I'm hesitant to you know practice any religion that is not countering racism, white supremacy, and replacing it with a system of justice. So
Yeah, if and nobody has any more comments, I'd like to go back to the text.
mhm.
And I wanted
wanted
to
to
ask
ask a
a question
question.
about, it's in chapter 8. Dr. Francis Cress Welsing mentions how the Black males learn how to use their penises before the guns, and white males are read and taught how to use the guns before penis. And that literally just, for me, it's also synonymous to Black people learning about trauma and personal, like sexuality being forced onto Black children first before anything, where white children are able to be innocent, explore, be scientific, ask questions more, and as well as be trained on how to use a gun, go camping, learn how to survive, or like understand nature. Like if a deer was here, how many hours ago, it was literally taught how to hunt, where and survive, where we're literally taught how to, I would say even, okay, it's not necessarily being taught to procreate, but it was definitely being taught to be to as a loss of innocence, and just understanding the realms of like lower frequency pleasure, as opposed to spirituality or understanding that very good observation. I want to ask anybody else's opinions of what they think.
Ruby, I think definitely disrupting Mary's speech.
Oh, I'm not sure what was heard, but my last thing that I said was I wanted to get other people's thoughts about that statement about um, white children being taught how to use the gun versus Black children being
Yeah, I
taught
can't.
penises
Yeah.
first.
I would love to contextualize that because I've actually developed new thoughts surrounding that. Um, so, with white children, you know, and in Russia, they learn how to use like AK-47. They have like competitions of like all these toddlers and like them like disassembling automatic weapons and rebuilding them. And white children also learn how to hunt at a very young age, learn how to they like get guns for their birthdays, whereas that does not happen for Black children. And also, when white children are exposed to guns, it is still in a very safe environment. They are like not gonna be killing other people. They're gonna be killing animals unless it's like some kind of like so-called tragic accident. But when we see when like guns are in the proximity of Black youth, those guns actually are used to kill other Black people. And also when we see young children being trained in parts of Africa and trained in warfare, those children are also being trained to use weapons, but they get sent to combat to kill and die. Think of the movie Beast of No Nations. Think of the title of that movie, Beast, a non-humanizing term of no nations, a people, a lost people, a people with no home. That was a huge like brainwashing ploy, a huge example of white supremacy manifestation. So just have to share that.
Yeah, and I love how Mary kind of summarized the attack on Black children as opposed to white children are kind of are educated on survival and like kind of encouraged to learn about all areas of life and survival, where Black children are kind of pushed to kind of deal with white people's inferiority when it comes to sexuality, like almost straight away, and kind of be forced to accept that you're, I don't know, you're gonna be demonized as someone who's Black, but then also the projection because they are genetically inferior, but that projection of, you know, you being genetically superior is also going to be something, a burden that you have to carry as well. I don't know, psychologically it's like, I don't know, being abused but then having to deal with the fact that your abuser is only abusing you because they feel it inferior to you.
Yeah.
So
I want to just say, add on to what you're saying about how, like, you're saying, I don't want to say what you're saying, like put words in your mouth, but I believe that white people subconsciously have projected so much onto the Black male genitalia that when they see a Black male, they probably think he has a dick, he has a gun. Like, to me, like it's the same thing. Like, our penises remind them of their genetic annihilation, and it's very interesting that when you see white children playing with guns, you just automatically think cops and robbers, you're going hunting. It's innocent. But when Black children are seen with guns, you think criminal. And Tamir Rice was a young kid, younger than Emmett Till, and he was killed within 0.2 seconds upon the cop arriving to the scene, and being violently murdered while having a toy gun that looked like a toy gun. And I'm able to imagine and believe, and I think this is a valid assumption, that when this white police officer saw Tamir Rice, he saw his he saw a threat to his existence. He saw a threat to the existence of the entire white race, and that's what I think guns have. That's what I think.
And I think it goes all the way back to the very beginning when well, I just want to give the same concept of the domination of the people in South Africa. They had to instill fear. So whereas white kids are taught that the gun is their friend and is a tool for their survival and an essential part of their lives, Black people, it's instilled in Black people that there's this relationship with fear to guns. You should fear guns, and you should fear using guns. If you use a gun against a white person, you'll get your whole family killed, and you'll be incarcerated, and you'll suffer immensely. And very powerful. I'm so glad, Mary, you brought this up, and the comments and the dialogue is profound. But I think more so than the actual physical tool of weapons is the fear of the weapons and the fear of using the weapons. We got to get out of being scared of guns. You know, my father, you know, how could you come out come out of such a violent situation and then raise your kids to say, oh, no guns, no guns, no guns. We're nonviolent, no guns. When you should be raising us to be very familiar with the most powerful physical tool for our survival.
Yeah, I have this video. It's 7 minutes, so we don't have to watch the whole thing. But this is I do believe that what Ben is saying is that narrative has been enhanced, sustained, and refined. I think even to this day, Black men are like made to fear guns and fear associations with guns. So this right here is a SNL SNL sketch with Richard Pryor, and I don't want to spoil anything because it's quite telling and it definitely coincides with what we're talking about. So do you mind and playing this video?
All right. All right, Jay, what are you gonna say?
In a racist, white supremacist system, if guns give people power, and if white people perceive gun as power, this was a complete showcase of how, even to this day, Black men have been trained not to associate themselves with guns. And even in this skit, he walks out of the store without any power or any protection, you know?
Yeah, that was to call this comedy is absurd. That was very disturbing to watch. Very sick. It was very sick actually. And it's just a small look into the white psyche. But like I was very disturbed watching that, and it was the last one was like perfect because this is just this is like so overtly racist. But if you don't know what you're looking at, if you don't understand racism, white supremacy, this will be like you will probably perceive this in such a different way.
I actually enjoyed the artistry. I like the expression of the different personalities to showcase whom kind of would purchase that type of gun or what they associate different guns with. Like the small silver gun being associated with like a feminine voice, and it being like, I'm slender and I'm whatever, however the voice went. The point that I was trying to make is that it's like they would say what type of gun associates what type of social power that you may be looking for. Like the insecure gun that said, don't look at me, don't touch me, it very much reminded me of like the insecure type of police officer who would shoot first and ask questions later. And then the silencer gun is like, it would be used for organized crime. So it had that kind of, they put like a mobster kind of personality. I don't know, I just feel like that was very the intention was very much to show the different personalities of white supremacy. I would even call it the different personalities of white supremacy and on what premises, who would choose what type of gun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, all in all, reinforcing the idea that killing is fun. You know, it's something.
Definitely, an observation of this is a way of attaining power, and I'd like how Richard, even though he left still unprotected, it was almost like saying, "This is not the type of power I want."
Yeah,
I have my own.
Yeah, and it was right after the last one, which was a German Luger.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he was bragging about how the precision and how superior he was, and he was sitting up on a stand over the other guns, and don't even look at the other ones. This is where I'm the best, and that's where he mentioned that people enjoy killing each other, and gave a real Nazi perspective. And then right after that, it was after that particular one that was designed in the sketch in the sketch for Richard Pryor to walk out of there just petrified. He was scared to death when he left it. It was, full of fear. So yeah, the message of, Black people should fear weapons was reinforced once again.
Mm. Jeez. All right, do we have any more comments from chapter 8?
I do not. I think it's very simple. A lot of not a lot, if not all weaponry can be considered symbolic manifestations of the representation of male phalluses, including missiles, rocket launchers,
Tanks.
tanks, of course guns, and even grenades are like bombs that you explode to preserve your race by obliterating and blowing up the other race. Um, yeah. If anyone else has anything to chime in or speak upon, or they want to bring anything to the floor, please do so. If not, we can have like closing statements and adjourn.
I would just like to say from my summary of the chapter 8, I really enjoyed reading this very much. It's very eye-opening, and it just made me think about how everything in the white supremacist Sicily or mentality kind of teaches you that, okay, like how we don't use our brains as much as we should do because I rely on our iPhone, rely on calculators, rely on most things that we should do naturally or could practice naturally to strengthen our own being or understand more of our potential, we now pertain to technology because of this understanding, like just the concept of the penis being a weapon, so you must have a gun. So everything that you could acquire in nature, we have the opposite of in society. And like my grandma used to talk about how she used to walk for miles and how we don't understand what walking is. If I think walking, like missing my stop and walking is a distance, like the things that we naturally, I feel like did anciently have been lost in that sense, I guess, because of like our reliance on technology, so much so. And it's just made me want to observe like how much I rely on technology. As much as I've double-edged sword, I'm using it for my advancement right now and being able to be connected around the world with people and be able to have these kind of conversations. So it's great in that sense, but then not thinking about the other aspects of it, of like personal intimacy, or ignoring that aspect to use technology in that sense. That's my observation of it. How much have I negated from my own natural observation because society glorifies technology so much?
Yeah, I think gun culture is so global and so everywhere that this chapter is insanely important. It reminds me, well, first of all, it's important to understand and remember that white supremacy trains selected few people who are not white to use guns, weapons of war, death machines to kill their own people. And it reminds me of a story told to me by Mary about her mom told her that like the rebels went to her village and shot an RPG at their door. And it's just like it's totally like white supremacist behavior manifested, and like weapons of war being used against fellow black people to destroy like the homes of fellow black people. So this is how this gun culture manifests outside of the states. Inside of the states, see Dylan Roof, see Cal Rittenhouse. So yeah, we need get a gun, learn how to use a gun, stop being afraid of guns, because um, the, the current white supremacists in America are calling for a race war. So it's important to be aware of what they intend to do and how to safeguard and counter what they're trying to do. So
Yeah, I don't want to be naive. I would absolutely love to how to use a gun or crossbow or just some form of weaponry for the defense. No, honestly, I think
Yeah, I
crossbow
feel
is
you.
my. But I feel like it's very important to defend, to learn some form of defense and not be naive because of feeling that we shouldn't have like a non-violence approach or just not want it to be a part of my reality. Like I don't ever want that to be a part of my reality, but I have to be wise and like understand that. And based on footage I've seen and just the understanding that white European children are on high social class children are being taught survival via defense of hunting, guns. So why shouldn't I have access to this knowledge? I need to like let that part of naivety in me die and realize that to take it seriously.
Can I read this one last paragraph just as a closer, right? On page 114. With the gun being the symbolic genitalia of the white male, his answer to the threat of white genetic survival, gun control would represent white male genital castration. Such gun control would spell the immediate end of white genetic survival on Earth. That shed such amazing light on this resistance for gun control for white, how vehemently they hold on to their gun control. It just crystallized it for me. They're being asked to give up their penises.
Yeah, and it's so funny that the white countries that don't have the access to guns, they tell the whites over here to make sure you never give up your guns because we can't kill them like you guys over there. Is what they're subconsciously communicating. But I always hear like British people say, make sure you guys don't lose your gun rights, because the government is so scary. You're not scared of the government, you're scared of genetic annihilation. You're scared of Black and non-white people. Yeah, but yeah, this is great chapter. All right, thank you everyone for participating and holding it down for these hours. Thank everyone. May we continue reading and developing solutions to this problem, educating ourselves and inviting people, attempting to recruit. We know how tough it is out here for our victims to read and heal.
And I know we talking about reading 3 chapters for next week, but I have a really intense workload. And this week, so I'm gonna tame back the ISIS paper to 2 chapters for next week. Chapters
9 and 10.
9 and 10, because I want to be able to, this is the branch that me and Mary are sustaining and building and growing. So
yeah.
For me to come best prepared, it needs to be 2 chapters next week. I'm going to be on set every single day this week, and that is going to be extremely draining. And